This afternoon, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is serving warning to heads of public institutions, asking the institutions to carry out an internal audit on the payroll structure and remove from it all fraudulent payments. The commission is further warning banks that it will retrieve any fraudulent or unearned salaries that have been made through its channels. Let's hear from the Chief Executive for the Commission, Benjamin Atta, who's been speaking to us in an earlier interview.
For the workers of this country, we have a special group, that is the public sector workers. The 30% is the welcome news for all public sector workers, and the feedback that we're getting is positive. Of course, it's government's responsibility to cushion the worker. Even though we were not able to meet the full expectation of the public sector workers, I believe this will go a long way to ameliorate the challenges that workers face in this country, vis-a-vis the economic challenges that we face. But aside that, I must also admit that the percentage increase that we have given has a ripple effect on the private sector. And already some private sector organizations are receiving requests from their employees as to what they should do and what not to do. In simple language, they are also expectant that a similar courtesies will be extended to them. So we have some other institutions, they don't come to us, but of course, through data collection and collaboration, we're able to know what is also pertaining in the private sector. So for public sector, yes, it's good news, but for private sector, it is also more or less brewing into some agitations, and people are beginning to cite our examples that, look, for public sector workers, this has been done for them. Private sector workers need, similar courtesies because we all draw from the same market, and that principally is the argument.
Right. We'll talk about the private sector and what you intend to do on that score. But for the public sector, the labor unions were not enthused about the 30% threshold that you finally agreed on. The question is there room for improvement? Are you hoping that in the nearest future some more will be added? Oliver Twist, you can always ask for more.
I will not be able to stand here and preempt that because what we have given is not out of the blue. Basically, what we have is what you can afford to give. So we agreed. The wage fixing mechanism is through negotiation. But looking at government's ability to afford what we have promised, you will not be able to stand here and say that in the shortest possible time we are going to add or subtract. But it's our expectation that the state will be able to mobilize the necessary resources to meet that expectation. In the budget, we had put in to the maximum of 20%. So the 10 extra, which was not anticipated, we definitely must find the ways and means of cutting here, drawing from here and there to be able to patch up the difference. But it is our hope that at least it meets a minimal expectation. Of course, we have specific allowances that are, specific to institutions. So when you hear the base pay, it's basically for the entire public sector, especially for those who are on the single spine. But aside that, we have institution-specific allowances that are negotiated with the specific institutions, and that is ongoing. But I must use your medium to plead with public sector workers that we will have to manage our expectations, going forward, even with the institution-specific allowances. You must also understand the fact that you can pay what you have and what you can afford. But aside doing that, this year we are also keen in answering the question, what are we paying for? And when I say what are we paying for?
We're looking for efficiency.
Efficiency, productivity. So this year we're taking the necessary steps to make sure that institutions will set their targets, individuals will have their targets set, so that at the end of the year we will have a measurement period to know what each institution was able to achieve and what individuals are able to achieve. so that we'll be able to link the score to pay. So maybe for the first time, we should be able to achieve this in this country.
But as we speak, the opinion is divided as to what the root cause of this growing agitation on the labor front is. Some believe that we go way back to the base, the single spine salary structure. It's the bane of why we're seeing what we're seeing on the labor front, and so there's a need for us to review it. I recall that came up when you met at the Kwewu summit. These were some of the issues that came up. What's going to happen to, for instance, the single spine salary structure?
Well, I don't know if you are privy to that information. True to government's commitment, the National Tripartite Committee set up a committee made up of government team, reps from employers association, and then organized labor. And we've gone very far with the review process. So the report is yet to be delivered to the sector minister and hopefully forwarded to cabinet. And when the decision is made, I'm sure it will be back for either further consultation or for implementation. So true to our commitment, some activities have been undertaken. So we are waiting the report.
What timelines are you working with?
We are not. I'm a member of the committee, and the committee is under the auspices of National Tripartite Committee, chaired by the sector minister. So I will not be able to give you such commitment because I'm only a member of the committee. But I can say that there is a commitment on the part of all the parties to actually get the single spine pay policy review, because being the implementers, we also see one or two challenges that we need to address, which we have laid before the committee. So it's one thing that I think we are also capable of doing. Referring to that communique, in that same communique, we agreed that fair wages should take steps and government should take steps to ensure that pay is linked to productivity. And that is the language we have now. So we want to be sure that that leg of our agreement is equally, implemented.
How do you intend to measure that efficiency in the public sector? Many say it's a task that you may not be able to complete
for us,
in the shortest possible time.
For us, our target is not the efficiency. The original mandate for supervising the public sector entities is with Public Services Commission. Where we come in is to advise government on performance management indicators and to be able to link pay to productivity. But going straight to productivity could be problematic because you have to really sit down, develop indices, the culture of the people. You must make sure people are sensitized, people have learned how to go about it and rest. But as for performance management measurement, it's already in the system. That has been piloted for quite some time. So what we're going to do is basically to support Public Services Commission to oversee that activity. And then when you are measured, the score will be given to us. And then we will be guided by the score. Because there's a pay structure that you need to move on. So as you move on the pay structure, I don't want to be very technical. As you move on the pay structure, we want to have your coordinates, your location. And we are saying that your location on the pay structure, apart from on the vertical, which is by promotion and grade, and on the horizontal, it has to be informed by your performance. And we all agree to that. So we need to pilot it, we need to sensitize, we need to train where it's necessary to train. You can't just lob this over people overnight.
You're taking away the cost of living allowances as the base pay takes effect. Some say you should have kept it, looking at the level of inflation on the market and a lot of economic developments. Why are you taking that away? Are you bringing something?
No, I like your smile. I like your smile because your own smile speaks to the justification of taking it. But the term here is not that we are taking it away. We agreed, organized labor and the employer agreed that it will be implemented over a 6-month period from July to December. So we have only respected the agreement that we have had. We have not taken anything away. We agree that from July to December, whilst we wait to fix the base pay issues, that will persist to cushion the people. So once the base pay, the father has come home, the others must give way, and that is what has happened. So there was no question as to whether it can be taken away or not be taken away. It's by agreement that it has expired. Basically, that is what has happened.
The new year is here, 2023, and you have a lot on your table. For instance, the teacher unions are asking for their professional development allowance, a lot of concerns coming to your table. How do you intend to deal with some of these concerns? I mean, starting off.
Okay. So
the teachers.
It's not the teacher unions who are asking for the professional development allowance. It's the non-teaching staff.
Non-teaching staff. Okay.
It's the non-teaching. It's just for the sake of our viewers.
Yes.
It's the non-teaching staff. If you look at some of these demands, not speaking specifically to what you have put on the table, if you want to look at all these demands and you want to look at what we have to do this year on our plate, you realize that we have a lot to do, because that is only one union that we need to deal with. There are several other unions that have collective bargaining certificates that we also have to, deal with them. Currently, as we speak, we have had the first meeting with the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, preparing towards negotiating their condition of service. The teacher unions, the pre-tertiary teacher unions, have served notice already. Ghana Medical Association has also served notice already, and a number of them have equally served notice that this year there's a need to engage. But aside what you know us for, we also have other mandates that we haven't exercised too well in times past, that this year we want to also focus on that. And that has to do with payroll monitoring. We want to be sure that this year all public sector institutions that are receiving their pay directly or indirectly from government subvention will take first steps to sanitize their payroll. And that is to say that
the ghosts from
yes, we want to make sure that the ghost names belong to the cemetery on the payroll. The payroll has two chambers, where the living must be and where the that through administrative errors and the rest are not benefiting. Through the payroll monitoring, we want to ensure that they are benefiting. There are others who are not deserving of certain allowances that they enjoy. And I want to give you a key example. It is possible that you are being given a vehicle maintenance allowance. Possibly you have sold the vehicle to another person. You no longer own the vehicle, and yet that stays on our books. So we want to be sure that we'll sanitize the system. But let me take this opportunity to appeal to heads of all public sector institutions that even before fair wages comes to you, try as much as possible to sanitize your payroll, because it's of cost to the state. Already we have people who are working actively who might deserve better pay. So if we're able to save the one that we are giving to those who are not working, and we share it for those who are working hard, it will serve as a motivation for them to give up their best. So we want to be sure that those working and deserve better will also have the better pay that they always deserve, and not those who are not working but are enjoying, from public sector pay. So we want to be able to do that. There are people who are dead and might be staying on the payroll. Some people might have even abandoned posts, and for a couple of months they will still persist on the payroll. Apart from that, you have people who have resigned that for a number of months might still be on the payroll. Let me give you a typical example. If a teacher in, say, Nanton resigns, like any other district, that teacher must send a resignation letter to the district office. The district director or officer in charge would take some steps and forward it to the region. And possibly by the time that letter travels all the way to the headquarters, a month or two would have passed. And that individual for that 1 month or two will be taking pay. Because if you are not sure, you can't also take away the pay of people. So you must be very sure. So within this transition period, you realize that somebody will be taking pay. You have some people who might be dead, but who has reported it immediately, who has shown evidence. And for 1 month, at least that individual still is on the payroll. And when you release that pay, it becomes very difficult to take it back. So we want to be sure that the system is sanitized. And those of us who are also working, we must also justify why we are being paid. So the payroll monitoring aspect is there, and then the performance management monitoring and making sure that linking pay to performance is also active, is also there. So we want to ensure that at least we will do our best from the point of view of fair wages to ensure that the public sector is becoming, performance driven.
Okay. And be sure to find that conversation with the CEO of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Benjamin Arthur, on all of our social media outlets and also at myjoyonline.com. But it's time now to talk about this 2 days of intense revenue collection mobilization by the Electricity Company of Ghana. Its ratings and 50 million Ghana cedis out of the 5.7 billion cedis customers owe the company. The ECG says that it is indebted to the independent power producers, a reason for which it is carrying out an intense mass disconnection exercise for those indebted to the company. My colleague James Aveje has been following that exercise, day 3 today, and we understand that it's even getting worse for some private companies as well. Let's talk about the latest happening to Fabrimental. It's one of the companies that's been closed now as a result of what's happening.
Yes, so that's the latest. They have been disconnected from the grid this afternoon for failure to pay a total of some 28 million Ghana cedis.
28 million Ghana cedis. And this is a private company, correct?
Yes, this is a private steel manufacturing company, those that manufacture the iron rods and all of that. And so they have been taking off. They need to do a full payment or an amount that the ECG would agree on before they are connected.
Day 1 started off with the Energy Ministry itself. That ministry was disconnected. Then, of course, the exercise was ramped up. Day 2, we saw the activities in Parliament. And for day 3, what was the focus of the Electricity Company of Ghana?
So day 2 and day 3, which is yesterday and today, the focus is around the Tema Enclave, the private manufacturing companies, especially those of them that are on the heavy load. They do heavy consumption from the grid. That is the focus on them. So yesterday, the task force visited the Tema Oil Refinery as well as the B5 plus steel component. So at the Tema Oil Refinery, we were told that they were owing some 13 million Ghana cedis or so. And so they had to pay that over 20 million Ghana cedis actually.
Right.
And so they made an upfront payment of 5 million Ghana cedis. Yesterday, they were expected to make another 5 million on Friday, and then by end of next week, they were expected to make the rest 13 million Ghana cedis payment. And so Tema Oil Refinery escaped the disconnection.
Okay, so they would have been disconnected.
Yes, they would have. In fact, every company they visited was with the intent of disconnecting them because all of these bills they owe are in arrears. And so the initial intent has always been to disconnect them. But if you are able to show some, display some concern or indicate that you'll be able to pay, they negotiate, you make the payment, and then they leave you. And so they make the 5 million cedis.
And they're telling us as well that the exercise has been digitized.
Yes, exactly. Especially the payment platform has been digitized. So what happens is, if they do the negotiation and an amount has been agreed on, right there and then, you make the transfer of the money through the electronic system, and then it reflects directly to the major platform that almost everybody on the team can get an alert that this company has made this payment directly to the DG as well as other members of the team. And so that's the good news for them and for the companies as well. They don't have to go to the bank or do other transactions, because the ECG is saying that they are not accepting check or physical cash in the exercise.
And what else is this revealing to us? For some experts, it's the same old story about the inability of ECG itself to track its metering system. Has that come to the fore as well?
In fact, that was the issue at Fabric Metal when they were disconnected. One issue they raised was that for a time now, they have not been given a substantive bill. Whatever comes has been an estimated bill, and so they have been waiting for the substantive bill before they can make payments. And the ECG is of the view that if your meter is not billed or a substantive bill doesn't come, the agreement is that with customers is that you make the estimated bill payment. If the substantive bill comes and they synchronize the figures and they have to refund monies back to you, they will do that. If you would have to top up, they do that. And so it actually came up because if you remember on Monday, the DG indicated that they have only 800 meter readers reading over 2.5 meters across their operation regions. And so that came up. Another issue that came up was the economic hardship, the issues of economic hardship and high cost of operations, for which reason the companies are stating that is the cause of their inability to pay the bills.
How long will this exercise travel?
It travels for 30 days, as they told us, one full month exercise.
So today doesn't look like it's the end of the story?
Not at all. In fact, we are in the initial stages, the starting point of it. And so we're hoping that it is sustained. That's the concern of a lot of Ghanaians, that this is sustained. Because the DG says they are looking forward to retrieving 100% of their money, which is the total 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. And so we hope that it is sustained and they achieve what they want to achieve. So that's how it has been today. After 3 days from the National Task Force, we heard about some disconnections at other parts of the country. But for this task force, this is the first disconnection over 28 million Ghana cedis for the day.
Okay, James, thank you. Let's listen to the MD for the Electricity Company of Ghana, Samuel Tobik Mahama.
Please, these phone calls should stop.
Are you receiving phone calls?
Some have come through. I haven't acted on them. And let me take this opportunity to say, I'm not being disrespectful. I don't want to disrespect anybody. I am just trying to level the status quo. Let's let everybody feel and know that this company belongs to all of us. You have a mandate. We have a mandate. How do we pay the independent power producers? How do we pay Gridco? How do we pay VRA? It's a shared responsibility. So please, let's just do the right thing. Because I don't even have the moral right after sending somebody out of the office to pick up the phone and call him and say, hey, you know, can you cut X, Y, and Z slack? No. Then what's the moral of the exercise?
I mean, the calls that have come in, are these friends or power brokers or politicians?
It cuts across. It cuts across. It cuts across.
And they want you to do what? Just...
Oh, can you hold off? Can you... hold off as to what?
The biggest problem in the past has been when political calls come. Because those ones, the argument is always, you are possibly trying to kill our base. Somebody else in the government who tried that, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, complained publicly when he was sacking people off the street that his own party came after him very hard. Maybe you haven't had that yet, and so you are saying, oh, I don't want to respect you.
So before we went on this, what I decided to do was to give a few courtesy phone calls, speak to a few people that I feel matter, and so that the information will cascade down. So that was how I started it. And to be very honest, it's mostly not political calls that I get about destroying party power base. But forgive me, I don't see myself as doing politics. Understand? I see myself now as a technocrat. If the biggest mistake we could ever do is to politicize the work done from this office. So for me, your electricity bill doesn't have a party color. Your electricity bill is red, gold, green with a black star in the middle. The truth of the matter is at a certain point, you expect everybody to take up their responsibilities. because you don't want to be going there all the time. But it has come to our notice that moving forward, this exercise has to be sustained.
How?
So we are looking at a formula where hopefully the last week of every month, ECG is administrative staff and everybody joins in. Because what's our mandate here? Sell reliable power and collect the money. Collections are down. So if we don't go out there to collect, what are our moral rights in here? In the case of airport company, yeah, we came up with a lot of understanding. Today I even had a phone call with the MD, who she wasn't happy about what happened. I could understand and I could relate, but in the end, there are some structures have been put in place that they are going to be paying. They put us on a proper structure which will allow them to clear the old debt and tackle the new debt. You see, when you have debt accrued and you ask for a payment plan, in the eyes of ECG, the payment plan is for the old debt. It doesn't take care of your present debt moving forward. So when we do that with you, we're expecting that as much as you are servicing the old one, you should be making sure that you are current on your current bills. You understand? So that's what we want every customer to move to now. So in the case of Ghana Airport, I can say now we have a working understanding that is going to be enforced, because now we have people that are going to be dedicated to this kind of service to make sure that these big customers are given the courtesy they deserve and they can depend on the power coming from our establishment. So we have come to an understanding with them, and we would make sure that at the last week of every month in this company would be dubbed revenue mobilization.
Last week of every month?
Yeah, because that's when you receive your paycheck. The truth of the matter is...
For the rest of time?
Yeah, so for the foreseeable time. I think it's a very great innovation because, look, you receive your paycheck at the end of the month.
I do.
You enjoy electricity.
Yes.
When you run out of credits on your phone or talk time on your phone,
I will reload.
Aha! But the prepaid customer, when they run out, what do? They don't
have a choice.
They have to reload.
Yes.
So what's the moral right of the person who's on the postpaid meter, who is also supposed to equally contribute say his quota to the energy sector? So and let's not think that this exercise or moving forward is tailored for postpaid. No. It's also to inspect illegal connections in terms of what? Prepaid meter.
And we are your election headquarters. We're now talking about the Electoral Commission, because the newly appointed member to that election management body, Ekuafo Boateng, says her hard work and her support at the commission. Her comments come in the wake of controversy surrounding the appointment of Dr. Piahini, together with herself and one other person, to replace the vacuum at the Electoral Commission. Let's listen to a member of Parliament for Boeing, Kofi Adams, who's been raising concerns about how President Akufo-Addo is allegedly packing the EC with NPP fanatics.
We must all be concerned. As journalists, you must be concerned. As religious leaders, we must be concerned. Civil society must be concerned that there are some institutions that we call them independent bodies. And right from the commencement of this very fourth republic, all presidents we have had have worked so hard to keep such institutions as much as possible away from partisanship. But this current president have decided to desecrate all these independent institutions, including the Electoral Commission, and have arranged to pack it with known faces, known activists of New Patriotic Party. Dr. Bosman was one of them, and we all saw after his appointment comments he made to suggest that the NDC was an existential threat to democracy. This is the first time we have heard a commissioner, for that matter, a deputy chair of Electoral Commission, make such a comment. This was so because of his partisan consideration. Lessons have not been learned from that. We are now still packing it more with more TESCOM members or patrons. This is not right. This is not appropriate. I'm not saying that maybe individually they may not have the requisite qualification, but their partisan association should bar them from occupying such sensitive position as commissioners.
Well, the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, is asking the president to reconsider the appointments. Paula Brampa is director of programs.
Agree and even go ahead to suggest that the appointment should be looked at again. The advice from the Council of State to the president, because the Article 71 says that the president does the appointment in consultation and advice of the Council of State. I don't know what kind of background checks that the council made before giving the advice, knowing that some of these things can generate into conflicts and it starts on the wrong footing. I go ahead to recommend that the appointment be looked at again.
So let's listen to the newly appointed member of the EC.
The government, as far as I know, does not elect people. People are nominated by the general public. And so the government reviews and makes a decision as to whether they are all right to the decision or not, based on their research on the person and their conviction that the person is neutral. Of course, I don't sit on the committee that does this review. But as I said, I am honored to have the opportunity to serve. And I pray that I'll be able to demonstrate to them that my interest is in Ghana.
And the West Africa Network for Peace Building is warning of some increased activities of extremists in some parts of the country. There's more in this report.
The 17th General Assembly of the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP, took place on March 21st in Accra. The primary objective of the conference is to improve the relationship between states and citizens in line with the ECOWAS Vision 2050. Speaking at the event, the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security for ECOWAS, Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa, highlighted unemployment as the major factor for youth involvement in terrorism across Africa.
Challenges such as youth unemployment with little or no recognition and engagement by the state has laid the foundation for youth participation in violence. And in fact, in many instances, they constitute the foot soldiers in violent extremism and also in terrorist attacks, banditry, and others across the region. And this has to be reversed if Africa is to realize its potential.
He also added that making Africa a free trade area will promote unity within the continent, leading to overall progress and development.
Without unity, we are going to remain where we have been and, be serving the global community as the reservoir of raw materials, raw labor, our youth perishing in the Mediterranean and others. This is going to be the fate if we do not move issues like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the Africa Standby Force, to take a serious decision to make sure that African problems are resolved with African solutions.
Speaking in an interview with journalists, the Executive Director of WANEP, Dr. Chukwuemeka Eze, says the only way Africa can progress is by having a borderless market structure.
In West Africa, for example, you know how some group of persons gathered in Berlin in 1814 and divided Africa. There are many cousins of yours as a Ghanaian who are in Togo. Not for their choice, but just because a border was created. Africa should be a borderless single market for the people of Africa. And because the colonial people disintegrated this integration, will not make our leaders to remain where we are. It is important to begin a conversation on how to make Africa a one single market. That's the only way Africa can progress. And by so doing, we begin to challenge ourselves to produce that which we need.
This year's conference is expected to streamline strategies towards achieving ECOWAS Vision 2050, with the aim of improving the relationship between states and its citizens in West Africa. Esther Nkrumah's report, read to you.
And Golden Star Wassam Mines says that it has been heavily impacted by the burning of its equipment on site. There's more in this report.
As long as Manso is not operational, our production will be impacted. Manso is one of our pets operation that contributes pets to the main production. So I would say that off the top of my head, it contributes about a third to our production. So obviously, when Manso is out of the equation, our production has been impacted by a third before we come to grade, before we come to cost and all those things. Because if we're producing at a capacity, obviously, it's going to be impacted. Now, the bigger picture here is that when our production has been impacted, our ability to do certain things would also be impacted. Top of which comes to my mind is the government's agenda for oil for gold and for improving our national reserves. Agenda of which mining companies are supposed to produce, contribute 20% of our annual production. Last year, getting to the end of the year, we're all tasked to contribute about 5,000 ounces to this agenda. But this year, the law has come out and it's quite clear that we have to produce 20% to that of our annual production to that sort of program. And so where a company or a couple of companies have a reduced production, this has been budgeted. We're asked to provide estimates and your projections, and it's been taken into consideration. And it has been so reduced by a third. Obviously, it will affect our ability to contribute to that program, which has already been taken into consideration. So that is one worry for me on a national scale, where this activity, this violence would be impacted.
Well, the company is calling for improved security to support mining operations.
It is of great importance that when there is such a program which contributes to national agenda, the players in this program should enjoy some sort of national support as well. Well, it is the improving our reserves and contributing to the oil for gold program is of serious national interest. And so players like us who produce the gold and stand the risk of toppling our actions or the things that impact our production can topple national agenda should definitely have some support, like protection of our facilities, installations, where we find the risk. I mean, there is sometimes there are times that we've enjoyed that support in the past. There has been Operation Calm Life, where there's joint military actions that protect us from some of these things, theft and illegal miners and all that, of which it is withdrawn with the exception of special cases in other mining companies. But as a program, it should go hand in hand, because then when there's a derailment of some of these agenda, what are you going to see? It's a derailment of the government's plan.
Staying with us here on The Pulse, we'll be right back. Let's take you to Europe now because protests are intensifying in France against the policy to review the retirement age in the country. As the protests intensifies, this is posing a huge challenge to French President Emmanuel Macron. Emma Schultes is with our partners DW and is joining us right now with more. Emma, what can you report as to the root cause of these disturbances that we're seeing from France?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. The main issue, as you mentioned, is this question of the age of receiving pensions. And so the proposed plan has raised that age from 62 to 64. And pension politics and pension reform has been long a very tricky topic in France because it's seen as sort of the cornerstone of French social policy. And so for a large number of people, this was really a sign that for them, that the government was not listening to them, that they were, that benefits of theirs were sort of being taken away. And so that's what really kind of set off these strikes and these protests in recent weeks.
What would this mean for the French government and by extension, President Emmanuel Macron himself?
Well, this is, considering Macron came into office 6 years ago, this is among the largest challenges that he's faced thus far. I think this is, he won re-election last year, last April or last May, and at the time he said his goal in his second term was to bridge the gap between sort of the regular people and the political elite. And essentially this new law, which he decided to pass without putting it to a vote in Parliament, kind of undermined that promise to bridge these two different places. And so I think for him, you saw 4 years ago, there was this yellow vest movement that was also very much this grassroots kind of pushing back against some of the government policies. And now you've seen that this is perhaps even a stronger challenge to his leadership. He did, in fact, the government did survive a no confidence vote, but it survived it very narrowly. And so it's put him definitely in a very vulnerable position going forward.
And what would this mean for the whole of Europe itself, this strike and its intensity? Is it reflective of what's happening across that continent?
We definitely are seeing more protests, more strikes, and more general unrest in these recent weeks and months across Europe, especially Western Europe. In Spain, for example, there have been strikes. In Germany, there have been strikes among certain groups and parts of the population. Essentially, we've had a sort of difficult winter here across much of Europe with rising inflation, with rising energy prices, and so that has kind of created these conditions where people are feeling that life is not as affordable as it was, and feeling that they need to sort of push back against government changes and changes to the social system in ways that maybe are stronger than we would have had more than a year ago.
And I'm grateful for your time. That's Emma Schultes with our partners, the DW. Well, the U.S. Department is pledging more support for Ghana's energy sector. There's more in this report for you.
The Clean Energy Training Center fortunately has virtual and physical components. And so we've already started. We are offering a nuclear curriculum virtually to the entire continent, free of charge. Those classes are taught every other Thursday under the auspices of the training center. We will then find a suitable location in partnership with our colleagues at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, and then look to have some in-person events to include workshops, mentoring workshops, and in-person courses.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back. And today marks the World Water Day. Nuruddin, Upper regional correspondent, has been following up on some stories, telling the stories of people and how their lives are being impacted.
2 years ago, JoyNews visited the civic community and reported on the acute water shortage in the area that compelled residents to rely on unwholesome sources of water to survive. If there has been anything done to bring relief to the people, it is nothing that has been done. Residents at Sibi Hilltop and Central continue to depend on hand dugouts at suspected areas for water for domestic use. Though some water does spring up for them to collect, it stinks and also consumed without any treatment.
That's how we drink. It's because I'm not thirsty. That's how we drink.
These young girls would stop at nothing to get water home for use, some of whom, we are told, are bitten by snakes during the search for water. At least 4 women have been reported dead from snake bites. Daniel volunteered to take us around.
I think a few days ago, a lady was fetching from this very pit, as you can see. There was a snake inside. So, according to her, when she entered here to fetch water, the snake entered her skirt. You get it. But she was very fortunate she was not hurt. So we can count about 4 or 5 women, yes, who died out of snake bites because they were searching for water in the middle of the night.
This is the confirmation as a member of the news team was almost bitten by this snake.
That's all.
It is also worth mentioning that these springs are shared with the herds of cattle in the area as the main dugout that the community relies on dries up. The only hope for the community is this mechanized borehole sunk for the community about a year ago by Ruth Nati Foundation. This does not serve the growing population, coupled with erratic power supply to the area by Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO. Kujo and his family are caretakers of the facility.
The population at Sibi, both Central and Hilltop, we can't, the dam cannot help us. So up to now, we are still suffering of water problem. By then, so if it is rainy season and then the water passes after the dry season, our women go there, sleep there, they dig the holes, then the water will be coming small, and they'll be freshly bit by bit. Before they will break, maybe one person will get pan before coming to the house to feed on. Some have children, so if it happens that way, at times snake bites, a lot of problems. Some have small children. Some if you go and give birth, want more visions, Mama different other people to get more visions and give us more water to be Hilltop. This one cannot help CB. The population here is more than 18,000.
On the occasion of World Water Day, we wish to remind duty bearers of their commitment to ensuring social justice towards the vulnerable and the realization of access to clean water and sanitation for all, as stipulated in the Sustainable Development Goal 6. There are details in a Part 2 production as the acute water shortage has affected education, health delivery, and worker retention in the area. Peter Senu for JoyNews.
Well, let's take you now to Nigeria because it's been some months and a couple of days after the election took place there. But the opposition parties there heading to court challenging the outcome of the results. Kila Megwa is with our partners there, Channels Television. Will definitely get that for you and bring you some updates. But for now, the Assemblies of God Church is equally doing some celebrations. We're celebrating the life of God's servant, Professor Paul Frimpong Manso. And to help me do that discussion, we're joined in studio now by Reverend Michael Ayers, who's the Superintendent, Greater Accra West Region. Reverend, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
And congratulations to the church. You have a new leadership in place. But it's great to see that you're celebrating the outgoing one. But how unique is the story of Professor Paul Frimpong Manso?
Yeah, Professor Paul Frimpong Manso is unique in several ways. One, this is his 40th year in ministry, which he is going off as a general superintendent. He started from the rank of just a local church pastor, rose through the ranks as a district pastor, and a regional secretary, a regional superintendent. So going through the ranks, he knows what it is like to be a minister and what the needs and challenges of ministry are. I would say he also established the Vision 3000 project, which from 2016 to 2019, were able to establish 3,000 churches. In fact, in 2021 also, just before the COVID, he also started the Vision 5000, which currently is ongoing till we had this.
Okay, so you've scaled up?
Yes, we've scaled
from 3,000 to 5,000.
5,000, yeah.
And I'm sure that he's done more, for instance, in education and some other aspects as well that you'd want to talk about.
Yeah, I would want to say that he's done a lot for the church in terms of, he's a pragmatic leader. Okay. He's taught in all our Bible schools in the country and also other Bible schools outside the country. Right. He also revitalized our prime insurance company, which is doing well now. And I'll say for local churches, especially in the Ashanti region, they have a high name for him because he really lifted the pastors who are in there, giving them opportunity to rise and educate themselves, upgrade themselves.
But the workings of the church, what will he be preoccupied with now after, of course, exiting that role as the general superintendent?
The man is playing several roles
already.
He's also set up an institute, I'll call it a consultancy, that he is prepared to share ideas with pastors and people from all fronts of life. He has also a keen interest in mind with financial setups and buildings. So I know he has a way of impacting people. Currently, we celebrate him also for, he has put up a magnificent headquarters for the Assemblies of God at the Ringway.
Yeah, in fact, we all love that building.
Sure, it's one of the state-of-the-art buildings and things of our time. So he has a lot of energy. He has a lot of wisdom. He knows a lot about things that I think he's not finished yet. So it's good that he's still strong and is going out there to impact others apart from the Assemblies.
And he's contributed to national development as well through the framework of the charismatic and Pentecostal churches. He's been playing some leadership role there too.
Yeah, he's been, if I may mention a few, he's been the chairperson of the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council. Yeah, for years, and he's also been a member of the National Cathedral Board of Trustees. He is an eminent advisory committee member of the Electoral Commission. He has also served as, for us, the Mid-Ghana Bible Assemblies of God. He is a board chair. And then Trimakwa Rural Bank. Okay. He has been also a vice board chairman. He's also been a member of the Small Arms Committee, among other things. So he plays in the government settings as well. So he's a church and a state person.
Yeah, indeed. And the church has offered a lot to the Republic. But let's talk about the activities, the events that will unfold in celebrating Professor Paul Frimpong Manso. What are we to expect?
In fact, that's the more reason why I'm here, to let people know that we are having this event, the special one-day event, which others will follow on Saturday, the 25th of March, and the time is 9 a.m. at the Restoration Revival Center at the Roman Reach. Okay. We're inviting people from all walks of life. Heads of churches are invited. We are inviting friends and family to this. It's a 3-hour program. We look to see a good praise and worship. We look to see some good messages, and others who've known him for who he is and the things I've done, and they'll testify to it. And there'll be a great sermon by one of our, I'll say, veteran ministers from Tanzania, who is the General Superintendent there. And our current General Superintendent, Reverend Dr. Steve Wingham, is putting everything in place to make everybody feel welcome and that we celebrate this great hero of God.
Is this open to the general public as well?
It is open to the general public as well. I'll say for want of space, but all may come here and see. There will be some celebrations around the building as well and other activities going on. So it is a good time for somebody to pass by, see, or sit in and then help us celebrate this great colossus of ours.
And are there some more activities to expect after this?
After this, yes, there will be some Thanksgiving services that will go on both in Accra and Kumasi, where he spent most of his time. So that one, those programs, I'll say, look out for it. We'll
Indeed, we are all looking out to that. And how about the Prof himself? Has he spoken about his retirement plan, what will happen, he's going to be engaged in afterwards?
In fact, he's not tight-lipped about what he's going to be doing. There is a facility that he set up in Jawulu, where he already has his offices, and he thinks of still living in two places, in Kumasi and in Accra. In fact, three, and Takoradi as well. His wife comes from the central region, and I think they love the coastal area there. So he will be in all these places. And what he tells me personally is that he wants to be available to everybody. So at least in these three regions, Kumasi, that's Ashanti, Greater Accra, and Central and Western, four, I think we would have access to him.
How about church members? You have some message to put across as we do the celebration?
I want to encourage all our church members, all those of you in Greater Accra West region, I encourage you to come. The East, they are aware and they are coming. And all over the country, we are encouraging all superintendents to encourage their reps or most of the churches to join us, celebrate this great man of God who has really lifted Assemblies of God image to a very high pedestal.
Reverend, grateful. I'm sure that when the merrymaking starts, I'll be part of that.
I have your invitation card.
Indeed, so I'll be taking that right after here. Thank you. Reverend Michael Yesu, Superintendent for the Greater Accra West of the Assemblies of God Church. Thank you, Reverend, for joining us. We can now take you to Nigeria because of course, days after the election, the opposition parties are heading to court over the electoral results. Kayla Mugwa is with our partners, Channels Television in Nigeria. Kayla, welcome to the program. So why is the Labour Party heading to court now?
Hello, Blessed. It's so nice to see you again. It's not just the Labour Party. We did know that after the election, we're going to have quite a number of people who are going to court, who are going to be challenging the results of the election. And those challenges have started right now. Today we had Atiku Abubakar, but let's go back to yesterday. Starting with the Labour Party, Mr. Obi going to be able to get you exactly what he's demanding. To file the petition formally at the Election Petition Tribunal in Abuja, of course challenging the declaration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the presidential election. So he's asking the tribunal to declare that Tinubu was not duly elected by a majority of the lawful votes that were cast at the election. They also want an order that is mandating INEC to retrieve the certificate of return issued to Mr. Tinubu and issue a fresh one to Mr. Obi. So basically, part of his demands that the Election Petition Tribunal are that, number one, wants an order that mandates INEC to retrieve that certificate of return that was given to Mr. Tinubu and issue a fresh one to him. All right, so that's what we're talking about Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party. He's also asking the tribunal to alternatively make an order that cancels the elections and compel INEC to conduct a fresh election at which Tinubu, Shetima, and the APC will not participate. Actually, that's the second thing that they're asking. The third request is that they're alleging that at the time of the election, that Tinubu was not qualified to contest in the first place.
Interesting. And on what basis?
The election was invalid. They're arguing that the election was invalid by reason of corrupt practices and non-compliance with the provision of the Electoral Act of 2022. So
and there's a question. Yeah, there's a question even about why he's challenging the eligibility of Tinubu.
Yes, apparently the story that we heard of course, this is something that is still being discussed right now. We're waiting eagerly for this court case. That there is a case against this man somewhere in the United States. Apparently, there was a situation where allegedly he had to accept that he committed a particular crime. I'm not going to be able to give you all of the details here right now. that he had accepted that he committed a particular crime, and because he had accepted that he had paid some kind of restitution for that crime, and that based on that he's not qualified to run for the seat of the president in Nigeria. It's still a lot of speculation. The lawyers have a lot of work ahead of them proving these questions that have been brought on by Mr. Peter Obi, and the next few days will be increasingly interesting.
I can imagine. And how about the constitutional requirements during this period? What happens? Because you also have coming up the inaugural ceremony. Will that take place? And what does the Constitution provide for?
So they have a number of dates when this is supposed to be. I think this case is supposed to be.
Kela? Okay. Looks like... yes, Kela, we lost you intermittently. If you could just take that point for us again about the constitutional provisions and what may happen on the day of the inauguration. Kela, can you hear me? Okay, looks like we're having some challenges there connecting to Kela Megwa with our partners, Channels Television in Nigeria. But if you've not heard about it, it's been confirmed now that the Labour Party will be heading to court challenging the outcome of that presidential elections in Nigeria. Kela, one more time, if you can hear me, we just lost you while you were making that point about the constitutional provision. Are you able to take that for us again?
Hello, is it clearer now? Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. So the issue about the constitutional provision.
So I'm looking at it right now, section 132, subsection 7 and 8 of the Electoral Act of 2022. The election petition must be filed within 21 days. After that, 21 days after the date of the declaration of results of the elections. And the tribunal will deliver a judgment in writing within 180 days from the date of the filing of that petition. Section 134 of the 2022 Electoral Act also provides that the party who intends to challenge the process and outcome of an election can do so using these grounds. Number one, a person whose election is questioned at the time of the election not qualified to contest for the election. Number two, the election is invalid by reason of corrupt practices and non-compliance with provisions of the Act. And if the respondent was not duly elected by the majority of the lawful votes cast at the election. And with Mr. Peter Obi and with Mr. Atiku Abubakar, we're seeing that they're bringing up all of these three questions when it comes to this particular case that they've taken to court. So that's where we are. At least they met up with the deadline of the 21 days after the date of the declaration of the results of the election. They were able to meet up with that. So they have 100, the courts, we have to get the judgment on these cases 180 days, from the day of filing the petition. So Labour Party filed yesterday and the People's Democratic Party filed today. So we're looking at how those two situations will be sorted out.
Kela, we seem to be losing you again. Yeah.
It will be before the inauguration. So we're following that timeline to see if we're able to sort that out. But meanwhile, Mr. Atiku Abubakar has asked that the court should declare him the winner, and Mr. Peter Obi has also asked that the court declare him a winner.
So let's get some clarity on this. The issue about who exactly is in court. Is it just the Labour Party, or there are some more opposition parties joining this?
Quite a number of them. The People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, like I said earlier, also filed today. So Mr. Atiku Abubakar is filing today. And then, of course, when Peter Obi filed yesterday, we had quite a number of other people I want to be able to get. The Action Alliance and the Allied People's Movement also lodged separate complaints. So we're looking at 4 right now.
The inaugural ceremony, will that happen? Per what the provision is by law? Will everything proceed until the court either overturns or sustains the outcome of the elections?
So we calculate the dates. We're in March right now. The inauguration is supposed to be on May the 29th. So we have March the 22nd till May the 29th. We're trying to see if we can calculate those days to see if it's up to 180 or if it's less than 180 days. But these proceedings, the judgment has to be delivered in writing at least 180 days from today or 180 days from yesterday. But the inauguration is supposed to hold on May the 29th.
If that doesn't happen,
it will happen.
Well, anyway, let's see what then happens. But how about the reaction from the Nigerian people themselves?
Well, it's still in the beginning stage. These court cases have just been filed in. People are still trying to understand the grounds, to understand these questions that have come up. Are these things going to be provable? Are there chances that this will be done? It's never been done. It's never been done in Nigeria. We've never seen a situation where court cases were filed and then immediately afterwards the outcome of an election was changed. We've never had that happen before. But we're watching to see how this particular one works out. Mr. Peter Obi is known for court cases and winning those court cases. He's also a man who's known, whenever, someone feels like he has been treated unfairly, Mr. Peter Obi is one of those people who will go the extra mile to ensure that he gets justice. So we all expected this. I think everybody from the Labour Party, even from the opposition party, they must have expected this to happen. And now that it has, we'll be watching to see what the outcome is. Let's see how far this goes. It's going to unfold. A lot of things are going to come up. There's a lot of things that are going to be brought up into the news.
Right.
So many developments are going to be coming up, and we'll be watching all of them to see what they are. And we'll be bringing them to you, hopefully.
Okay, and finally, how much of a bearing is this having on the governorship race, for instance, which just took place in the country?
Well, the governorship race is still on. Right now, I'm looking at the Abia State Coalition Center. There's still coalitions going on in some states across the country. We still have a lot of issues that need to be ironed out. This is a very massive country, and these elections are held in so many places. There were disruptions in some places. There were issues one place or the other. So we have a situation where we have to wait. We cannot do anything right now but wait to see if these irregularities or these places where they have issues, whether it's violence, whether it's poor training of staff, whether it's diva situations, whether it's we have to be able to see how many of them are able to bring their complaints. And as the unfolding happens, as the days ahead, as the days unfold, these questions that they have, will they be able to affect the figures that have been, announced in some states? Are we going to see situations where some cases, some elections are overturned because of one situation or the other? We're still in the early stages. The elections have just held. We're still seeing collations going on across the country, but as they unfold, things become a lot clearer. Do these cases in court affect these situations with the governorship and state assembly elections? Not really, but they will come with their own set of challenges. That's my point. So the state assembly and governorship elections at the states will bring up their own questions. They'll bring up their own complications. They'll bring up their own issues, their own court cases, even, So where it's going to be a very busy time where we're jokingly calling this era lawyer season, because this is the time when everybody's going to court. So we'll be watching to see how all of them unfold, and then what's going to be able to be proven, what's going to be thrown out, what works and what doesn't. It's going to be an interesting time, let's say.
Anyway, we'll be on the lookout for that. Kayla Megwa joining us from Nigeria. She's with our partners, Channels TV there. Thank you for the updates. Back here in the country, don't forget that we're still paying attention to the Water Day celebration. And one of the institutions responsible for that is the Ghana Water Company. The Ghana Water Company Limited says it is partnering with students to increase awareness about water preservation. There's more in this report.
Now, manager of the Ghana Water Company encouraged Ghanaians to be the change they want. Kwesi Abebrese said raw water was becoming scarce in recent times, hence the need to protect what is left from pollution for the benefit of all, especially human survival. The regional manager also called on all stakeholders to join hands in the fight against galamsey.
We are happy that we have included pupils and students into this year's celebration of the World Water Day. The target is to inculcate in them at this early age, create awareness and conscientize them of the need to protect our water bodies and also to conserve treated water. We believe that even as they appreciate the difficulty in the processing of water, they can now be ambassadors for us everywhere.
He maintained that halting galamsey activities would help reduce the cost of production to enable them serve customers and create friendly environment for all.
Currently, we are struggling with turbidity levels. The plant is having difficulties to treat. The plant is designed to treat raw water. I think the turbidity levels do not be more than 2,000, and currently we are having 6,000 NTU and above. I think now the normal coagulant that will be used for any treatment process is aluminum sulfate, but aluminum sulfate is not able to handle the level of turbidities we have here. We are using polyelectrolytes. Many of them we call them polymers, and these are really, really expensive. I think about 4 times the cost of what normal aluminum sulfate will do. And of course, this adds up to the cost of operations. You saw also when we were on the plant, the power just went off. So apart from GWCL being water utility, we depend also on the power. And when power goes down or even fluctuates, we have problems sometimes not being able to operate. So all these adds up to the challenges we face.
Some beneficiary students expressed gratitude to the company for the insight given them and appealed to the illegal miners to halt their activities to save the country from importing water in the future. They also made a passionate appeal to the government to do its best to halt the illegal activities that are destroying the rivers and water bodies in the country.
So coming to the water treatment plant today has taught me a lot. I've learned the various processes water goes through before it gets to our homes, and I must say I'm quite surprised. I didn't know dirty water could be purified to the extent that we could drink it and it could come through our taps at home. We were sent to the river where the water is sourced from, and I had the shock of my life. The water is really dirty, and I learned it's due to galamsey activities that you could even see from where we were standing. So I think the government should do more to stop these galamsey activities, because the state of the river body was terrible. It was terrible, and I'd advise all of us in our various homes not to waste water, because the process the water goes through to be treated is quite expensive.
What I would like to tell people watching me from all spheres of the country is that we have to be ambassadors wherever we find ourselves, in our schools, in our homes, in our community, knowing that because the number of sediment dissolved in the water is a lot, the cost of production here is increasing. And if care is not taken for 10 years to come or 5 years to come, we would have to import water from a different place, and what will cause issues for the country.
The students were taken through various processes of preparing water for consumption.
Meanwhile, there's a sign of relief for residents of the Bosofo community as a humanitarian group has come through to end the plight of residents who've been struggling to get clean water.
Efia Mensa and these 3 children were the only ones seen drawing water from the well around 4:30 p.m. on Sunday.
This is the main water source for the town, and it has served for many years. We haven't really not looked into the exact source of the water, but it has a lot of impurities.
Residents say there is always a crowd in the morning with many people queuing to get the commodity.
If you had come here in the morning, you would have seen many people drawing water. You can come here on Monday and everyone will be here to fetch the water. We are really struggling. I am now residing in Accra. I left this town when I was a young girl, but the water problem has yet to be resolved. It's a shame for the students. Sometimes they even go to school late.
It is so dear who are they my papa.
But so for her, dear, Yamianim no Quasim, and so what they my papa.
Water is the most difficult issue here.
School no time
There are no publicly accessible drinking water sources for the residents. It is either the residents continue relying on the well or pay for the commodity.
If it's a rubber ketchup, you dry, no brings you back by 40 pesos. And a black said the consume, so we did 70 pesos. Gallon ketchup, so 50 pesos. The gallon each 70 pesos. Yes, I know, and why? As now be consumed, just a one to corner. Cause now when you are best, wouldn't see me.
Bosofo's struggle for clean water will be over in at least 2 months as humanitarian organization comes to their aid to construct a 10 cubic tank mechanized borehole for the residents. Richard McKeon conducting the hydrogeophysics test for the mechanized borehole construction to begin.
In essence, I came with two equipment, that is. And then usually we have what we call, we take 3 stages. I use the 3-stage approach. So what I do was first, I evaluated the terrain, look at the community, and then try to place more emphasis on where they will need the water and where I think the prospects are more high. So that is what I did by the terrain evaluation. And then secondly, after evaluating the terrain, I use the EMF, that is the Pool Finder Plus, which is equipment being made by Geodetect, went round, which is an EMF, electromagnetic field search, which gave me certain points. So I located about 3 points, and then after locating the 3 points, so this is just like an analog search. So what I need to do next was to what? Use the ground scan to sound those points.
According to Richard, the location is ideal for the construction of the mechanized borehole to provide residents with a continuous water supply.
And then, by God's grace, inshallah, the prospects are very high, and the success rate too will be very great.
We chose this place because when we came here first, we have found that people are really suffering when it comes to getting access to water. There's a school around this place that finds it very difficult when it comes to getting water, and also the community at large.
Residents, particularly women, say the humanitarian group's intervention will reduce their daily stress and allow them to devote more time to other activities.
When we get the water, it will benefit everyone, including the men.
First of all, we are very exceedingly grateful to KS Relief for having come to our aid, having more or less been a blessing to us with this project, which essentially is to give us water.
51 more mechanized boreholes will be constructed in various parts of the country by December 2023 to provide residents with clean water. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
And he may be the overlord of the Wala traditional area, but as powerful as he may be, there's one area he cannot step foot in this series of our Ghana Month series. We take you to the Wala traditional area to find out more.
Located in the northwestern side of the Wala township is Mango, and the residents are predominantly Gonjes, known locally here as Jabarahe. Situated at the heart of Mango and sandwiched by dozens of neem trees is the Gura Shrine. Where we are in now is actually called Gura, but it's now a shrine for the people of the Wala traditional area. This is where the third chief of the Wala traditional area, now Gura, got into and was missing. And so any royal, upon assumption of the throne of the Wala traditional area, they have to come here to pacify the ghosts.
Everyone has no legitimate right to come back here. It's a taboo, only to one. So when they say Mango is a dangerous place for people living in Wa, it's not dangerous to anybody. It's dangerous to only one.
Growing up in Wa, a lot of stories has been told about the iconic Gura shrine, particularly being the Waterloo for the third water chief around the year 1681. In the company of some royals of Mango, who are traditional custodians of the shrine, and divisional chief of Duse, Na Mama Jongra Salu, who also doubles as a royal from the Yijila Gate, I went with them into the Gura shrine for a better explanation of the perceived venison of Nagura during the war between the Wala and notorious slave raiders, Samurai and Baba too.
It was during the war era. He was trying to escape the war. From Fongo to this place, there's a shortcut here. In front of the current MP's house, there's a valley. After crossing the valley, his subordinates asked him, "Father, where are you going, leaving us? You want the people to come and take us bondage, or you want them to kill us?" So he said they should wait for him, he's coming. Then he traveled all the way to Salmana, between Doma, Yirman Boys village, then Beche. Between the two villages, there's a pond there. He went there after his horse taking water. He decided coming back to the people. He came here, Gura precisely, it was a small forest. So he decided to enter to see whether he can free himself, not knowing he was trying to vanish. So the subordinates were still waiting for him. He never came out, so they traced him up to this place.
After waiting for a while and not seeing any sign of him, they traced him up to this area, which was a mini forest, but to no avail. The Arabs saw some small holes they believe he might have vanished into, and his sandals and some personal effects he was carrying. Adam Awore hails from Mount Saddam Bayiri, the family that has custody over the Gura shrine.
The only sign they saw there was something like holes of cricket, but it appears the holes were much bigger. They looked around and saw his spear, sandals, clothes in chains he normally used for his slaves. It was there they realized that their chief did not want to be disgraced, and that is why he vanished.
Dusena Mahama Jongra Salif stated that since the incident, the shrine is always pacified by all succeeding overlords of the Wala throne.
They said, "Uncle, Grandpa, let us go and keep this your legacy. In case you come back, you come to take your legacy." So that is why everyone comes to perform the shrine here. And this is part of the witness. This feathers here, this feathers belongs to the current one who came and did it. And the blood you saw on the shrine was the blood of the sheep they slaughtered on it. So it's still here. And it has never gone dry. That is why they are hanging a gallon of water on top of it. It can be there 20 years, 30 years, until his death, before they can change the water.
Of the whole area. But
Yes.
there's a particular place that you can come in.
And that is this place. That is this place. From the Mango Junction up to this place, no one has ever trespassed this place. Yet, there are warriors living within them. Even some of the royals are living here. But one per se can never set eyes here, not even foot.
He provided examples of former Wala overlords that arguably may have been caught in the web.
When I Sidik Bome used to travel to and fro on the main road, going to where Pepsi offices are today. Wadia's father, Peter Ghanaian. They used to go to him and enjoy there. So anytime he's passing from Kambala Johnson, the Sana Johnson precisely, they'll cover this side with a very big towel. He's always in his car, 1717 UR. That was what he was using, Peugeot 504. They normally cover that place. And he sits in the back alone with his language, Banaba or Salanga. So they go to him. Every time when they are coming, they wouldn't pass here again. They go through Dormo Road, pass to Xavier side, and then he goes home. One eye Yakubu, Swale the second. Metro Mass, quite recently, when he jumped into it, for the day they commissioned Metro Mass in here, they go to in-service. So he turned and I was looking at this place. Somebody within them asked him, Father, you are looking at Gurao. He said, Oi. That was the local language he used, that Oi. Then he turned. But look at in-service and this place. At that time, these houses were not there, but these trees were visible from in-service. That was the second one. So I wouldn't say I'm attributing their death to it. No, because they never came here. But before they had the scent. So I believe that is working them.
One of the places that the water overload practically visits is this house of chiefs complex located at Wale Sambo. The distance from the One House Palace passing through the main traffic light up to Kambale is much shorter than when you are passing through Zongo, Choco, up to this place. But the water overload is like the former because of its proximity to Gura.
When Afisheni tried passing here, we said no. That's why they constructed a new road up to the House of Chiefs, and he passes there always. He has never set foot here. Even though his brothers are living here, Boturena Ali Audu, he lives here by Gora, but that has no anything against him. Me myself talking, I'm from the same family with him. He's my father. But I have not, it's not a taboo for me to enter here as I've entered.
But once you become one,
once I become one, I can never, and I will never come here again.
The Gura Shrine, being a place of reverence for Wala royals, surely is not in the best of shape, and they want it to be given a facelift to attract the needed tourist attraction.
So, Ananga Sumbu na be here and dance something and then going.
It was our MP who fenced the place for us. The place needs to be given a facelift and beautified to attract tourists.
We are like Oliver Twist. We needed more. For say, if we can get helping hand from any other NGO or government side for us to reconstruct this place nicely, to make it tourist attraction, it would be helpful for us.
For now, the people or the royals in the Walo community are still looking for the return of Nagura, who they believe is still alive. When will he come? Is that multi-million-dollar question that needs to be answered. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam.
And back here in the studio, that's all we have for you here on the Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more. We'll see you again for live for now. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Please stay.